Well, hello, everyone. Happy Monday, and welcome to the Joy Reid Show. Big up to everybody. Hope you guys had a fabulous, what do they call it, 16th day after Juneteenth weekend. I call it Essence Fest weekend. That's what we call July 4th weekend around where I'm from. But I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend, no matter what you were doing, what you were celebrating, or what you had going on. We had a great weekend. We're going to talk a little bit about some of what those of us who are on this end of the screen were up to. But want to big up everybody that is on YouTube paying attention. Those of you who are on Substack, hello, Substack fans. Hello, if you are on Facebook or LinkedIn, hello, SFL6, I see you there. Wherever you're listening, if you're on an audio podcast platform, we appreciate each and every one of you. Big shout out to the Twitchies. Huge Twitchy community growing. We are growing so fast on Twitch, so we love our little Twitchy poos. And also our LinkedIn friends. Hello to you all as well. You guys are the high upscale listeners because you're on LinkedIn. So I appreciate each and every one of y'all. And the Lemon Readers are here. Hello, Lemon Nation. We appreciate the Lemon Readers. You guys are always here. We appreciate you each and every time. I see you, D. Alexa, Lemon Reader. We see each and every one of you guys. We got the little hellos going. Love it. Love it. What is that? Dyslexic Fingers. Hello, Dyslexic Fingers, giving us the wave. We appreciate the wave. All right, let's jump into it because, of course, over the weekend, well, before we get into it, you know what? Before we even get into it, because I know some of the stuff that we're going to talk about tonight might make you want to drink. So the Joy Reid Show is brought to you tonight by our friends at ZBiotics.
Celebrations don't start with the clinking of glasses. They start with ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol, a probiotic you take before your first drink, so you can enjoy the night and wake up ready. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol, the science behind your next great morning.
Now, listen, I'm just back from Harlem and also New Orleans. And look, we know we all like to party, even if we are getting into auntie age. We like to do our thing. And we still, though, have to work the next day. It is not a thing where we're like in our little young, cute 20s and we can just go out, do whatever we want, have fun, have a wonderful time, and wake up the next morning and go to work like I used to when I was a club kid. Not a club kid anymore, grown now. And so ZBiotics has become really an important part of my routine. And that means the first drink I have, if I'm going to be going out and having a great time, is before I even have my security, I have my ZBiotics. And this is something that you have to make a habit. They're small little bottles. I like to pop it right into my bag, take it with me no matter where I'm going, because you never know, and I might want to have a little cocktail. And I also have to work a lot. I work like 7 days a week. So ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol, before alcohol, allows me to enjoy the evening and feel perfectly ready for whatever tomorrow brings. And so we all know what ZBiotics is, I think, by now. It is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. Oh, look, it just appeared right before my eyes. Magic. Thank you, Jason. And it was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. So here's how it works. You just drink this one little bottle. You can down it, and it has no taste, which is great. It does not have any kind of a medicinal or any kind of taste. You can make it your first drink of the night. And what it does is it goes in and it works against that little toxic byproduct in your gut, because it's that toxic byproduct with the buildup of that, and not dehydration like your mama and your aunties told you, that actually is responsible for the rough days after drinking. But pre-alcohol produces this enzyme that breaks that byproduct down. So if you just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, you'll feel your best by the following day, because that's important. And it's been important to me. I am a ZBiotics fan, and trust me, this industry will make you drink. And so I make sure that I do that. I put a little bit in and I keep it moving. And so the friends love it. I've been passing it around to friends and family, making sure that people are always ready to go. But the problem with that is you have to get more because people use it all up in one box and people are giving it out. But I love it. So if you guys would like to make sure that you are ready for all the barbecues, fireworks, late weekends, late nights, all the things that you're going to be doing this summer, keep the good times rolling into the next day by drinking pre-alcohol before you go out and wake up ready for whatever the following day brings. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/joy. Use the code JOY at checkout to get yourself 15% off, because we do absolutely love that. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this show. zbiotics.com/joy. Use the code JOY at checkout for 15% off. Okay, so now let's get into our show in chief. So one of the things I did, because again, I did attend Essence Fest, so big ups to the Global Black Economic Forum. We did a version, an on-stage version, and also a podcast version of the Joy Reid Show, which we will be airing as a special coming up very soon. If you saw it streaming live, you've already seen it, but we're going to cut it together, make a special out of it. That'll be very soon. So I did that, and then headed back to Harlem to prepare to be here for you guys today, so we could be in the station in chief, in the sort of setting in chief. But then yesterday, I spent much of the afternoon in Washington, D.C., in our nation's capital, because as I told you all last week, I wanted to see for myself this Freedom 250 thing.
And she went without me because I told her I damn sure ain't going.
He was very clear. Jason was very clear he was not going to no Freedom 250. But I figured the day to really see it and to really see if people were going to show up was going to be Sunday. Why? Because this was a good family day. It's a post-church day. So here, and I figured if they're going to be crowd, they were going to be here yesterday. So you can see it there. There was a lot of, the freedom came with a lot of barriers, barricades all over DC. You could barely get in. There was a little hoedown they tried to do. As you can see, the crowds were still light. This was a Sunday. It wasn't super hot. It was a little cloudy. They ended up shutting it down early because it eventually did get cloudy and there was like thunder and stuff, but it wasn't raining. It was decent temperature. You can see I went into multiple things. I'm going to post a longer video so you guys can see it a little more closely. The Museum of the Bible. There was a lot of like Bible and churchy and religious paraphernalia, which was very weird. Moms for Liberty was there. This is the part where young people were given the chance to draw heroes. And what you'll see is that when young people were allowed to draw heroes, a lot of them drew women and Native Americans. So it was interesting when children kind of self-selected who they thought were heroes. There was Harriet Tubman. There was one astronaut. There were a lot of Native Americans, multiple Harriet Tubmans. There were about 3 just on that wall alone. So when young people got the chance on their own to say who their heroes were, they were pointing to a lot of women and to a lot of indigenous people, which was interesting. But when you went beyond them, it was kind of shocking. Moms for America, not Moms for Liberty. Moms for America was there. That was me in my outfit. How white it was. This was a thing that was Northrop Grumman had their own little, it was almost like a ride you could go in, which was creepy. There was the, I'm going to show you the Arc of Triumph, or whatever he calls it, the Arc of whatever, Trump's Arc to Trump. But you can see this was the side that was a little more packed. There was a very long line. That was the Florida line was the only long line. No other lines even had a line. Florida had a long line. I didn't stand in it because I'm like, I don't even want to know what was in there. But you can see when you go in the exhibits, and again, I'm going to put up a much longer version of this on Substack so you guys can see it, and I'll put one up on YouTube as well. The exhibits showcased almost exclusively white people, white celebrities. 2 different, both the Mississippi and Louisiana had Elvis, big Elvis. And this was Louisiana, which was interesting in that there was one, Louis Armstrong, which was kind of the only Black face that I saw in the exhibits. Many of the exhibits were very plain. I went in 2 of the more elaborate ones. I did eventually go in North Carolina to make sure they didn't still have a Confederate flag up. But it was very staid. It was not a lot of crowd. I was kind of surprised at how kind of lightly attended it was. I did also, and I'm going to show you later, I went by the reflecting pool, which was surrounded in a giant gate. Interestingly enough, there were like 4 workers who were working on it from the inside, but you couldn't get to them. They were all brown people. That's the Mississippi one. It was very white. So even these southern, and you can see the raindrops are now starting to fall on my camera there. There was the big Ferris wheel, not a long line for the Ferris wheel. I felt a bit badly for the families who were walking around. And a few people, I was just listening to them, were saying, wow, this isn't a lot. And there was the Arc de Trump there. And you could see that they stapled the outside of it on. So it was, and a lot of the fixtures, when you go close to it, it looks like it's 3-dimensional, but it's just a painting. So there was nothing 3-dimensional. It was all like taped on. And this was us sort of when we left. It actually made me a little sad seeing how poorly done it was and how kind of the lack of uplift, the lack of excitement, the lack of culture. And keep in mind that the night before, for their big, July 4th extravagant, this was on July 5th. On July 4th, they tried to have a big concert, which got delayed because of rain, a huge storm that caused the attendees to have to flee inside the National Museum of African American History and Culture, which was super ironic. I saw those clips on social media of all of these people, again, overwhelmingly white. I saw that as well. Like 99% of the attendees were white, a lot of them in MAGA hats, a lot of them in American flag paraphernalia. There were a handful of Black people as well, but mainly white people. And seeing them sitting inside the National Museum of African American History, no offense to these MAGA fans, but all I could think was, oh my God, I really hope that they don't get angry that they're stuck in there and start marauding and destroying things. If they understand that they're in the Black History Museum, it made me nervous. This was my nightmare on January 6, 2021, that they would discover that they were that close to the Black History Museum and go in and start destroying things because we know how much they hate Black history. So that was very jarring to see them in there. Some of my favorite responses were that God made them go in and get a history lesson and that they ought to have to take a Black history quiz in order to leave. And that hopefully while they were there, they learned something. I doubt it. I don't think they went into the exhibits. Some people said they hope that there was one post that said they hope that the museum exhibits come to life and start talking to them, which would have been interesting. I wouldn't be against that. Maybe the exhibits should have come to life. Because, the idea that these people were stuck, of all places, in the Black History Museum because they couldn't go and have their very, very white, very, very Trumpy, very, very partisan party on July 4th. The fact that they couldn't even start their fireworks until after midnight, and Donald Trump was determined to keep going. And so friends that live in DC or work in DC, or mainly who live in DC, were talking about the fact that their sleep was then interrupted because they started the fireworks after midnight. And if you saw the fireworks, it literally looked like DC was on fire. It looked like World War III. It didn't look festive. It looked ominous. It looked like...
so funny? Mm-hmm. I apologize.
Sure.
You know where we are. We're all the way in the boonies, right?
Yeah.
At around 12:15, and I'm a bed. I go to bed. There's nothing going on, I'm going to bed. Mm-hmm. You could hear those blasts from DC from our bedroom. Yeah. It was loud. It kept on going on and on. I thought it was a crescendo because, every time they do a crescendo, it gets louder. It was crescendo after crescendo after crescendo. And apparently it was just a complete nightmare.
Yeah. And the sound, right. And so they started that after midnight because, of course, for hours before that, they were trapped in the Black History Museum. Some people saying they should have saged it afterwards. Listen, all I could think of was sinners. Like, don't let them in there. That's like the sinners thing where they look outside and say, y'all Klan. And that GIF or GIF, I call it GIF, is going around, y'all Klan. Because I would have been a bit nervous because one of the things that's jarring about Washington, D.C. is that the people who are doing most of the, sort of ushering you around, most of the people who are doing sort of the clerking of you, the moving of bodies around, telling you where to go, where to sit, the people who are working in the museums are almost entirely Black. And so because the sort of service, sort of worker world is very Black. And so it was just very jarring to see all of these young African-American men. Almost all the people directing us around were young Black men. And the people they were directing were almost all MAGA white people. And I say they were MAGA because they were wearing MAGA clothes or they were all dressed in American flag stuff, which is actually violating the flag code. But the idea that these people were stuck in that place, in that sanctified space that, Mother Nature directed them to because the storm wouldn't let them hear Trump for hours was actually kind of chef's kiss perfect or also terrifying because I definitely had a sinner's vibe of please don't let those people truly understand what artifacts are there and destroy them. I'm sorry to be that cynical about these people, but I remember January 6th. And for all the right-wingers who say, yeah, but we're not the violent ones. Yeah, y'all are. January 6th, y'all were beating the crap out of police officers and trying to kill them. You tried to lynch Nancy Pelosi and you tried to lynch your own Vice President, Mike Pence. Y'all brought a literal lynching rope with you. And so on January 6, 2021, all I could think of was, please, God, don't let these people destroy the Black History Museum. And then here they were. Same vibe, different people. But the other thing that happened was a white supremacist group, a very well-known white nationalist group called the Patriot Front, marched on January 4th. This was before they had to What I'm going to show you all is they want you to see the clips that are going all over social media of them marching and going, America, take back America. And they were marching with Confederate flags, upside down US flags. It was very disrespectful of the country. But I want you to see Ford Fisher and TJ Jones of News to Share, and big up to them. They actually showed you what their actual experience was like. Okay, Jason, roll them.
the right to abortion. You pathetic pieces of
Get out! Right here. Go home!
Give it a minute and try again. Get out of line.
Go back to the back of the line.
Give it a minute.
Back of the line.
Get another card from Sam. It's right there.
Here, who needs a card?
Right there. Go. Go.
Who needs a card?
You want any more numbers? Oh, 250 years. 1776.
What's the point today?
What's the point? National independence. The representation of the nation's cause and our people's interests.
in the face. Get the doors. Pull the doors. Let's go. Hey, yo, we're moving. Let's go. All right, guys.
Get the fuck out of here!
Bye.
You can't even walk in the right line! Look at you like a fucking loser! I'm covering your face!
So proud that you don't show your face.
Oh no, don't knock your hat off! Oh no! Oh no!
There you go.
You guys suck in the military!
No.
No. Walk faster! You're behind it! Come on, let's go! Let's go!
All going to
What's wrong with you?
all?
Man, look at these uneven rows. Hey, short stack up there. Walk faster. You're falling behind. Let's go.
If you put them down, then they will all look at you. You could be the new alpha. They'll all look at you like the new leader if you fight that guy. You should go punch that guy right in his face. The guy with the stupid hat on up there, the leader, Thomas. Go fight Thomas, and then you'll be the new leader if you win. But you gotta win. Because I'm looking at it like big, strong guy like you taking orders from a little guy like that. It's no way. I just don't believe it.
Smiling under that, man.
I'm sorry. So the counter protesters followed them around. That was them playing the clown music. I didn't add that. That was the clown music that they were playing as they followed them around and mocked them and said they should go fight the leader. The one guy who's not wearing a mask is named Thomas Ryan Rousseau. He created this organization after splitting from one of the other groups who did, remember, Unite the Right? The Charlottesville massacre people, the people who did Charlottesville in 2017. In the wake of that, after one of the neo-Nazis who was part of that march to try to save the Robert E. Lee statue in Charlottesville, Virginia, one of them went to prison. I think he got life in prison for killing a white woman, Black Lives Matter marcher. And so the groups then split, and this guy created Patriot Front. And what was hilarious about it was like 90 degrees. They're out there in full masks, face masks, and the whole regalia. Hot as hell. Some of them had to be treated. I guess they had to take their little mask down to get some water. And they looked ridiculous. And so I thought the best clip to show you was that clip because they were being treated as if they were ridiculous. No one was afraid of them. They're not the real Klan. And the fact that they were all in their little look-alike outfits marching around proclaiming that they're going to save Western civilization, but they can't show their faces. You're like, what? Mike Lee, the senator from Utah, tried to gaslight us by saying, well, they're clearly Antifa or real leftists who are dressing up because, quote unquote, real patriots don't wear masks. At two, Mike Lee, because last I checked, ICE wear masks. So you're saying ICE are not real patriots? Because they look just like ICE. They look like the Proud Boys. They look like all the other right-wing groups. The Oath Keepers, the Boogaloo Boys, they all dress slightly differently. The Boogaloo Boys wear Hawaiian shirts. But a lot of these people wear masks. And so they look just like all the other ones to me. They all look the same to me. They all look like Klan to me. And note that we are in the 2020s. And so it is very reminiscent in many ways of the 1920s. We're going to get to that in a moment. But I want you to put a pin in that and then think about the fact, also in DC, did you know that Doge has ended itself and that the government is now rehiring? I know you don't think these two things are related, but Doge has now ended itself officially. And just so that you are very clear, the Office of Personnel Management, which was allowing Doge to run rampant through its files and fire tens of thousands of federal workers, leaning heavily on firing Black women. Here it is. Here's OPM reinstatement notice that is live online. You can get to this online right now. And it says that they are now looking to reinstate people. So this is after Doge wiped out USAID, wiped out big chunks of the federal government. And then all of a sudden, right, they stole all they need. They got all our data. And now they're like rehiring. They're suddenly rehiring. If you go to number 2, Jason, it's got some of the requirements. If you want to get rehired, you can come right back in and get a job. But let me make y'all disabuse you of the notion that those Black women are about to get those jobs. You know why those people march around with their masks on? It's not because it's part of their uniform and it's a way that makes them feel powerful. It's because if their faces are completely covered and they end up with those federal jobs, there's no way for you to connect them with this white nationalist organization. If you don't think that what we're seeing now is the great replacement of a professional, largely multiracial federal workforce with these clowns, you haven't been paying attention. Some of these people are likely going to wind up working in the federal government, attempting to administer your VA benefits, your Social Security benefits. Those same people who are walking around chanting white nationalist bullshit are probably going to go right to OPM and get jobs that you will pay their salaries for. And this is a way for them to both be white nationalist, undercover, under a mask, hot as hell, looking stupid, but then turn right around and sit in an office in a suit and tie and run the federal government. Unqualified, underqualified, stupid, not intelligent, not worthy, totally unqualified for the jobs, likely not educated. And it doesn't matter because we are in the nadir, which is very similar to the one in the 1920s, where openly the Ku Klux Klan operated in the United States. It was the second coming of the Klan. The Klan had two very big moments. Moment number one was in the original Jim Crow era in the late 19th century. And then they kind of died down a little bit, but they came back strong in the 1920s. And in the 1920s, when they came back, they weren't secretly in the Klan. They were openly in the Klan. At one point, I used to live in Denver, Colorado. At one point, the Democratic mayor of Denver, Colorado, was a high-level member of the Ku Klux Klan, but so was the Republican governor. So Mayor Ben Stapleton, who they named for a while the arena after that I graduated from high school in, Stapleton Arena, Ben Stapleton was a Klan leader, but so was the governor. His name was Clarence Morley, and he was a Republican. The Klan was active in both the Democratic and Republican parties. The 1920s was their heyday. Woodrow Wilson screened Birth of a Nation inside of the White House. Note that Woodrow Wilson is also the reason that we have the national anthem we have, because his daughter had a hit record with the Star-Spangled Banner, and he then declared that his daughter's hit record should be our national anthem. Just so that you know, the national anthem didn't come with the country. It came with the most racist Democratic president in the 20th century, Woodrow Wilson. And his daughter loved the song, recorded it, made a hit record out of it, and he said that should be our national anthem. That's how we got it, that racist Democratic bastard. And so over the last, actually, I think he might have posted it today. Jemar Tisby, who is a really terrific historian, posted this one. This is Jason A6. That if you think about what we saw in Washington with these upside down flags, Confederate flags, these right-wing neo-Klan marching around in their silly looking incel uniforms with their faces covered. And then you think about the 1920s, 2026 and 1926. There is a connection. We are in the new age of the open Klan, where Klan-like membership is once again completely it is accepted and promoted in a way by the federal government. Keep in mind Those people are fascists. Those guys marching around is the First Amendment. And it genuinely is. Even the Klan has the right to march. It's the First Amendment. Being against them, according to this regime, makes you a terrorist. Being anti-fascist makes you a terrorist. Let's listen to your Interior Secretary, his name is James Burgum, asked whether or not Donald Trump should condemn the Patriot Front. Take a listen.
Move on. But do you, as Interior Secretary, will you recommend to the president that he condemn this group and what they were trying to message, what they did try to message here in Washington?
Well, there have been, Nana, part of my response to that is that there are protests on the mall that people say things that I think are irreprehensible about President Trump, and yet they're allowed to go on because of free speech in our country. And so this is something, but you've seen President Trump. I was with him in North Dakota. I was with him at Mount Rushmore. I was with him last night.
White nationalism. It's, as you said, a part of America's history that still has pockets, but the fact that they were here in Washington on such an important day, I do want to move on.
But I do think, again, I mean, there are people that are saying death to Israel and death to America. I mean, this is part of free speech in America. They can say it, we can object to it, but it is something that comes with free speech in America.
Okay. First of all, why do you want to move on, ma'am? You shouldn't want to move on. I don't understand journalists do that. No, you don't want to move on. Make him answer that damn question. He was clearly willing to answer it. Joining me now is the person who created that amazing juxtaposition of 1926 and 2026, Jemar Tisby, who is an award-winning author as well as an excellent historian. Jemar, thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
Dr. Jemar Tisby. Let me give you your honorific.
Appreciate that. Good to be here.
Great to have you. So talk about this. They say that history kind of works in 100-year cycles, and it definitely feels like we are living the 1920s again.
It sure does. A lot of people like to say history repeats itself. Historians, we don't say that exactly because there's always differences, but history does rhyme, and we do see patterns. So I saw Patriot Front and what they did, and the timing was important. The 4th of July, America 250, them doing it on that day was an assertion of who and what makes a true American. And that has been the story of this country since before the Declaration of Independence. And so I went back and I did some research into, because we've seen probably online these pictures of the Klan marching in Washington, D.C. And I said, isn't that interesting that it's happening again? I wonder what was going on in the 1920s that is maybe similar or different to 2026, a century later. And what I came upon was really interesting, if you'd like to hear more.
Sure, please.
So 1926 was actually the second big march in Washington, D.C. of the Klan. The biggest one was 1925, where upwards of 50,000 Klan members from around the country descended on the Capitol, marched down Pennsylvania Avenue, and had this huge rally. Now, what was interesting about that is the permit that they applied for required them not to have masks over their faces. So they could wear the hoods, but they had to have the mask part pulled up. I don't know if that was to give it an air of legitimacy or they just weren't ashamed or whatever, but that was the requirement. And so in 1926, they did not mask up either. And so that's one big difference, right? We see in the 1920s, their faces were exposed. Now in 2026, they're wearing white masks and sunglasses. And I think to your point, Joy, so they can get these government jobs, so they can be part of the regime in some way, shape, or form and can't be traced back to these racist demonstrations. The other thing that's happening in 1926, 1924, you get this massive anti-immigration act. And this applies to people all over the world, including Southern Europeans. If you're European, but you're too dark skinned, you don't count either. And so this is just 2 years after that act in 1924. And then the last part was also very interesting. Continuity and discontinuity. That's what history is all about. What's the same? What's different? One of the interesting tensions is that in 1926, they were explicitly protesting Governor Al Smith of New York, who was Catholic. And so they ended in a rally that was anti-Catholic. It was anti the Pope. Right now, we have a U.S. president feuding with the Catholic Pope, the first U.S. Catholic Pope, actually. And so we see this sort of anti-Catholicism, but at the same time, many of the Supreme Court justices are Catholic, and the vice president, J.D. Vance, just put out a book, Communion, about his supposed conversion to Catholicism. So just some interesting context there as we look. A century has passed, and yet this ideology that democracy is failing and that this is a white man's country remains the same.
Yeah, but I would note that I believe that the Catholic members of the United States Supreme Court and J.D. Vance are apostatic Catholics, because they're Catholics who somehow don't believe in immigration. And one of the hallmarks of the Catholic Church, they used to shield undocumented immigrants inside of literal Catholic churches. The Catholic Church is very pro-immigrant, and they also ostensibly care deeply about the poor. And these so-called Catholics on the Supreme Court and in the vice president's office hate poor people and think poor people are immoral, and that being rich is how you show that you are moral. I mean, this guy is the scion, at least the ideological scion of Peter Thiel, who has now called the Pope a tool of the Chinese communists, and who believes that the Antichrist is probably Greta Thunberg because she's pro-environment and against AI. Like, this is apostasy. Like, you can call these people Catholic, you can call them whatever you want. I just call them all Klan. And that's just me. I'm not saying that as you, but I wanted to your point. 1924, there's one, a good friend of mine that is a producer at the artist formerly known as MSNBC, and we used to go into a deep wormhole about what was called the Klan Bake. This was the 1924 convention that they literally called it, they called it the Klan Bake, because it was so full of Klan. It was the Democratic National Convention, because remember, the parties were flipped at the time, and the Democrats were the conservatives. It was in Madison Square Garden in New York City, a 16-day event, the longest continually running nominating convention in U.S. history. It was deadlocked over what? The influence of the Klan. So it's interesting that you have, Dr. Tisby, a Republican Party that is as trapped by racists and this great replacement nonsense as the Democrats were trapped by it in the 1920s.
Yes. And the reality is, with a two-party system in the United States, what has always been true is that you had one party that at least gave lip service to a multiracial participatory democracy, and the other party ran on a platform of white supremacy, of white racial grievance. And that goes all the way back. So one of the interesting historical facts that stuck out to me is that in 1868, which was the first presidential election after the Civil War, you have Grant running against the Seymour Blair ticket. Seymour was at the top of the ticket. Blair was the VP. Their motto was, "This is a white man's country. Let white men rule." That's what they campaigned on. That's what they said. Oh, this is going to get folks to turn out the vote for our side. And mind you, this is 3 years after the end of the Civil War, more than 500,000 people dead, slavery finally abolished through a constitutional amendment. It's the time when people of the nation, certainly politicians at the highest level, should be most sensitive to racial questions, to equality and all of that. And what do they do straight out of the gate? They said, this is a white man's country. We're going to reassert that, which of course goes right along with the demise of Reconstruction in 1877 and the period that follows it, which is called Redemption. And then we talked about these waves of the Klan. First one is 1866, right after the Civil War. The third wave is during the Civil Rights Movement. The second and most widespread was in that Jim Crow era. And then you were referencing the film Birth of a Nation, shown in the White House. Well, the whole premise of that film is how the Klan came to be, which is as this noble resistance movement to Northern carpetbaggers and Black Union soldiers to take back the South for righteousness and for good and for true patriotism, right? Well, that same idea, I mean, we're seeing the ideological descendants of those folks, and it is unfortunately encapsulated in one of the two major parties that's been wholly taken over by this great replacement theory, democracy has failed, white people are the only true Americans kind of ideology and thought process.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing about it is that this conservatism, I just call it sort of blanket conservatism, it's constantly looking for a host. It's like a virus. And it'll take any host that it, you know, as I mentioned earlier, in Colorado, it took both parties. Both the Republican and the Democratic parties in Colorado were beset by the Klan. The governor was a Republican Klansman. The mayor of Denver was a Democrat Klansman. They're both high-level Klansmen. And so at one point in the 1920s, this is why it's called the Klan sort of golden era, because it was eating up both parties. It wasn't just the Democrats. Right. But in this era, it really is and what's sort of interesting, Dr. Tisby, is that the other party, usually when you have one party that's white nationalist, the other party is corporatist. Hello, Democrats. Let me do a game of who said it. I'm going to read a passage from the manifesto of the White Nationalist Patriot Front, and then I'm going to read something that was a quote from Stephen Miller, who, ironically enough, his own family came to this country, I want to believe in the 1920s, and would have been rejected under the very immigration law he wants to return to, it, which is the 1924 Johnson-Reed Immigration Act. That's what he wants back. But he wouldn't have even made it here under that because his people are Jewish. Here's what one of the two has said. The time of the republic has passed in America as the system grows too weak to perform its duty. The damage done to this nation and its people will not be fixed if every issue requires the approval and blessing of the dysfunctional American democratic system. Democracy has failed in this once great nation. And then here is another one. The fundamental question of our time is whether the West has the will to survive. Do we have the confidence in our values to defend them at any cost? Do we have enough respect for our citizens to protect our borders? Do we have the desire and the courage to preserve our civilization in the face of those who would subvert and destroy it? Which of those two do you think is Stephen Miller? Number one or number two?
I think the second one was Stephen Miller, but the ideology is the exact same.
That's why you're the PhD. No, you guessed correctly. But honestly, there are some Stephen Miller quotes that read worse than quotes from the Patriot Front. The ideology is the same. They both believe in great replacement. They believe that white Americans, white Christians are being forcibly replaced by people from what they call the third world. Brown and black people are not really Americans, cannot really be Americans. I mean, the Patriot Front believes that the African, as they say, cannot be a citizen because they simply are an African in America, and that they cannot be a citizen because they are not of the founding stock of the country. I'm not sure that Stephen Miller disbelieves that.
Well, what's so frustrating, and they don't care about facts or history, but black folk in the US have been here a lot longer than many of the white people who claim to be foundational to this nation. Stephen Miller, for example, Trump's family, for example, right? My family's been here longer than all of them.
Listen, the Patriot Front last name Rousseau. Baby, your people weren't here in the beginning. Every African-American been here before Mr. Rousseau. You from Texas, your last name is Rousseau, buddy. Go back to France or wherever your people are from. Go on, sorry.
And the other thing, I want folks to peep game here. So one of the things that I've been seeing more and more and more is folks in this circle giving more and more credit to Western Europe and white people in the United States for abolishing slavery. Like the move is to say, well, slavery was worldwide and it didn't start going out of style until countries in Europe and the United States abolished it. To which I want to say, why did they abolish it? Because it wasn't the enslavers who said, you know what, I've had a second thought and this is wrong. It was because enslaved people and their allies pushed for it. Understand that in history, whenever progress comes, it's not because the people in power suddenly had a change of heart. It was because the grassroots resisted to a point where they didn't have any other choice. And so they're trying to flip the historical narrative to say, well, it's Western Europeans and it's white people in the United States who actually did the most for black people. So I want folks to hear that. I also want folks to hear what else they're doing with this whole Western civilization thing. That is nothing but a Eurocentric, ethnocentric ideology that says whatever comes out of Western Europe is the best. And where you start to hear it a lot is when you talk about public education and curricula. They want to emphasize Western civilization, which scholars can do good in good faith and talk about that area as a historical, cultural, literary whatever. But that's not how these folks mean it.
Yeah,
How these
thank you.
folks mean it is European is better than African, than Asian, than South American, than indigenous, than anything else. And that's what we need in our schools. So we got to understand the language may be shifting here, but also there's this coding within it that promotes this ideology of white supremacy.
Indeed. Let me put up a piece for everyone that I recommend reading. The 19th has a fantastic piece called "The Black Woman Did Not Look Away," and calling on us to not do so either. This is A8, Jason. Whenever you get a chance, you can throw that up there. And it includes what I do believe is a Pulitzer Prize worthy photo, which I do hope will wind up receiving a Pulitzer Prize. It absolutely deserves it. The piece is by a gentleman named Cheney Orr. He is from Denver, Colorado, and is a fantastic photographer for Reuters. And you, sir, Dr. Jemar Tisby, thank you so much for being here. You're brilliant, and we always appreciate you. Please come back anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And never forget, there wouldn't have been no freedom from slavery had it not been for the constant insurrections or attempts to overthrow their own condition by Black folks, including a giant fight, a giant overthrow of slavery in Haiti, which terrified the West, and the constant attempts by Black folks to free themselves, including offering themselves to the Union to fight. That's why we ended slavery. Clock it. The Joy Reid Show is brought to you by our friends at Wild Alaskan Company. Now listen, I'll tell you what I'm having for dinner tonight. Sorry, Jackie Reed. I'm gonna have me some fabulous fish. And Wild Alaskan Company makes the freshest and the most wonderful, the tastiest, and the most helpful. Because if you're really trying to eat well and you're trying to feel better and be healthy, you have to start with the ingredient that you're putting on your plate. And wild caught is one of the ways that you can be sure that you're not getting a lot of sort of chemical introduction and that the stuff you're eating is actually the best for you. Wild caught, high quality seafood delivered to your door on your schedule, even better. And so if you are going to eat, if you're a pescatarian like myself, Wild Alaskan, they give you this wonderful box that comes with individually portioned fillets, vacuum sealed for easy prep and perfect for any meal, no matter how quick or elevated. All the fish is quick frozen, fresh from the Alaskan waters, which helps lock in the freshness, the texture, flavor, and key nutrients like omega-3s. It's fish you can trust with no GMOs, no antibiotics, or other additives. Every order supports sustainable harvesting practices and Alaskan fishermen whose history is tied to the region and the practice. And so our experience is that the food is delicious. I'm a snapper girl. If you love you some snapper, they're going to give it to you in these wonderful portions that if you're doing meal prep is perfect because you can go ahead, prep, and be ready to go. Fabulous, delicious. We also love the cod. And Wild Alaskan is so confident that their fish is the best. They will give you a 100% satisfaction and money back guarantee so you can try your first box risk-free. If you go to wildalaskan.com/joy, you will get $35 off your first order of premium wild-caught seafood. That's wildalaskan.com/joy for $35 off your first order. Thanks to Wild Alaskan Company for sponsoring this episode. Okay, so your president, I'm putting it on you, not me, is at it again, claiming that if the U.S. does not win the World Cup and they play tonight against Belgium, boo Belgium, he's going to treat it like he did the 2020 election.
This game would have a big mark on it. If we lost, if we won, no matter what happened, you have to let them use their best players. And the game tonight's going to be amazing, and we're going to have a full team, and Belgium's going to have a full team. And you know what? If they beat us, then they can be really proud. The other way, if they beat us, we'll say I say it was rigged, just like the election was rigged in 2020, but I won't get into that.
What an idiot. And just to make sure that he gets his way, Trump actually intervened to have a red card on the U.S.'s best player removed so that he could continue playing. As veteran journalist Bill Rhoden writes, and I'm going to quote, "In one simple act of intervention, the administration of President Donald Trump has transformed the United States men's national team from World Cup underdog to global villain." On Sunday, in a stunning turn of events, FIFA, the governing body of international soccer, suspended the red card U.S. striker Folarin Balogun received in the team's match against Bosnia-Herzegovina last week in the round of 32. FIFA's move makes Balogun, one of the United States' best players, eligible to face Belgium on Monday evening, that's tonight, in the round of 16. ABC confirmed reports that Trump made a call to FIFA after the U.S. win over Bosnia-Herzegovina last week and apparently asked FIFA President Gianni Infantino, an admirer of the president who gave him that fake award, I added that, to review the red card. In 2025, Infantino presented Trump with the FIFA Peace Prize, that they never existed before the ceremony for the 2026 World Cup draw in Washington, D.C. We do not know if Infantino pressured the committee that looks at all incidents during the World Cup yet. Balogun's red card was surprisingly suspended. So real quick, who is Folarin Balogun? Well, he's a U.S. striker. He previously played for Arsenal, that's Jason's team, in the UK. He was born on July 3rd, 2001 in Brooklyn, New York. Now, here's the thing. His parents are Nigerians of the Yoruba tribe. Their names are Florence and Ben Balogun. The Balogans were living in London and were in New York visiting relatives when his mom was 7 months pregnant. But when they tried to return home, the airline staff refused to let her board her return flight due to her advanced pregnancy. They wouldn't let her on the plane. So the couple returned to Brooklyn, and Folarin was born in New York and is therefore an American citizen. Now, he grew up in London. He returned there when he was 2 months old, but he's an American, which is why he can play for the team. And while this president and his regime are deeply anti-immigrant, deeply anti-Black, they especially hate Black immigrants, when it comes to winning at sports, Trump is willing to go out of his way to make sure that the Black immigrant can play. And joining me now is the aforementioned Bill Rhoden. His landmark book, $40 Million Slaves, turns 20 years old today.
Yeah, let's say he just has his camera off.
Oh, okay. Turn your camera on, Bill Rhoden. Turn your camera on, brother. We're going to wait for him to turn his camera on. Can you put the book up, though? The book is...
Absolutely.
Yes, let's put the book up. So this is one of the books that was the tome about the unfairness of Black players not being able to get paid to play. And there he is. Bill turned his camera on. Hey, Bill.
Rookie mistake. Sorry, Joy.
That was an unk move. Look, we auntie and uncle. They're like, turn your camera on.
God,
how you doing?
Wrong with you? How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. So let's talk about Mr. Balogun. Donald Trump, he don't like Black people, except when they play sports. And I think he feels that the only purpose for Black bodies is to play sports. So he's fine with Black athletes. And in this case, he went out of his way to help this brother out. What is happening?
Well, the whole thing is kind of crazy. And what's unfortunate to me is I try not to give him and all this any energy at all. My whole philosophy is not to give that fire any air at all. And so, but one of the things I was wondering, even at the beginning of the administration, the second administration, is given sort of the anti-DEI, the anti-Black, how is this administration going to screw around with sport? Particularly the NBA, the NFL, which is, 90% of the players are Black, big time college football, big time college basketball. And by the way, the reason why big time football, college football is what it is now, is a multi-billion industry, is because of what? Young Black muscle. That's and because of diversity, inclusion, and equity, that's why the SEC is the SEC and the Big Ten is the Big Ten, because they said, you know what? We need to diversify. We need inclusion. We need all the things that this administration said you don't need. So it's kind of, the whole thing is kind of ironic. And then the thing about I'm trying to pronounce Folarin Balogun. In other words, this guy's not Pele. I mean, it's not like he's Pele. But even going into the World Cup, it was kind of, I don't know. And he just happened to have a good World Cup. But it's not like he's like LeBron James or Kobe Bryant. So the unfortunate aspect of this is that in this country, Joy, and I know I'm kind of going all around, in this country, around the world, soccer is a working person's blue-collar sport. Yes. It's the working person's sport, kind of like the equivalent here of coming to the hood and making money. Not in the United States. In the United States, and they want to keep it this way, it's a middle and upper middle class suburban sport. And that's how it was perceived. And so I think that the United States desperately wants the respect of the rest of the world, because the rest of the world is looking at kind of like, man, you spoiled, pampered, kind of brats. And what's unfortunate for this team is that because they'd had a pretty decent showing, they just got to the point where people were beginning to grudgingly say, okay, all right, we'll kind of get behind this. And then at the first instance of, it's kind of like, having your mother come and talk to the coach, to get you to play. Right. At the first thing of resistance, the guy gets a red card and it's 50-50. You watch sports. I mean, you're a big boxing person.
Mhm.
Sometimes you get the result, sometimes you don't.
Right.
Sometimes it's fair, sometimes it's not. And that's just the way sports is. You pick yourself up, you play with what you got, and you proceed. But not here. No, this is, because it's this high profile USA kind of thing, this is a perfect arena to kind of grandstand and kind of come in and save the day. And this has never happened before, where a world leader contacts FIFA and says, listen, we want you to overturn or intercede in something that's never really happened before. And so all of a sudden, what had been a good World Cup, good results, Africa has got a great showing in this World Cup. Now all of a sudden, you've got the administration and the president in the middle of this controversy.
Yeah.
And in the long run, it's going to do more damage to the World Cup. It's going to do damage to the U.S. team and to his poor brother, because again, it's like, oh man, you only made the team because your mother talked to the coach.
Because your mama Donald came and talked to the coach. I mean,
Yeah,
look, the
kind of thing.
reality is, look at this team. And this is one of the things that's really been striking to me. You say that, soccer, as you said, football, as it's called throughout the world, is a working man's sport. It's a working class sport because all you need is a ball. And so anyone can play. And so kids are playing in the hardcore ghettos, the hardest places to live in the world. They all play football. Trust me, everybody around the world. Whereas here, you have to sign up for travel soccer. And it's like
soccer moms.
It's soccer mom. I mean, as a former soccer mom, I can tell you, we had 2 boys that played soccer, and it's a very, it's a very suburban sport. But look at the team. Look how black the team is. This almost looks like an NBA team, right? The NBA starting lineup. It's very black. But go to the world teams. Jason, if you go to the next one, go to the B6. Look at these teams, brother. If you look at France, basically that is an African team. Those people are from the French colonized republics, former colonized, the former colonial republics make up so much of the French team. Without Mbappe, what is the French team? And then if you look at England's team, as much as I very much wanted them to lose their previous game.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm rooting for all the African teams, brother. I'm trying to root for the African teams. And so they defeated one of the 9 African teams who made it that far. But it's a black team. That team is full of black people. The Norway team is very white.
This is the whole story of what you're looking at, is the whole story of colonization, right?
Yes.
It's a snapshot of colonization, and it's every single team. And there's 2 things, Joy. So when you look at the U.S. team that you just showed, now, yes, they're black, but none of those players were developed in the United States. They were all developed elsewhere. They were all developed in Europe. And so one of the pushes that a lot of activists want to see in the United States, there are a lot of great talent in the United States, in the hood, but that's not necessarily what USA Soccer wants to see. They don't want soccer in this country to be like the NBA and the NFL. They want to keep it kind of upper middle class, but forget that. I mean, that kind of gets into the weeds. But the point is that this team was on the verge of really kind of being embraced. Now I think that because of this intervention, it's kind of turned the United States back. In other words, it explodes the myth of this is sort of like this underdog.
Like it's a meritocracy.
Underdog. This is not how an underdog works.
No.
Where you just make a call and what was dark becomes light. That's not an underdog.
Can I just say to you, Bill, that if the U.S. ends up winning and being the final sort of ultimate winner, people aren't going to believe that it was legit. Donald Trump intervened, and then suddenly, all of a sudden, they win. It's just going to look bad. And I think you're right. I think it makes the country look bad, and it makes it look unfair. And that is very unfair, I think, to those players.
Yeah. No, it's unfortunate. But having said there's no but about it. It's been a remarkable story. The people on the team are nice people. They're fine. But it's just really it's really unfortunate. There's really a no-win situation, and this whole kind of patriotic fervor, the USA, which kind of makes me feel a little uncomfortable. you know, the whole, you know, the whole chanting, and I'm like, kind of, hold on, you know, I'm like for you, I'm like, I'm pulling for France, you know, I'm kind of like that. And one of the things that I've been fascinated by, and it's kind of the root of $40 million slaves, is that it's about power and control. How do we control our resources? And I think one of the challenges for Africa that's made a great showing is Africa has been sort of like a farm team to the world. It produces all these great soccer players, like you said, France, Spain, Portugal, every single European country has their first generation Europeans, you know, the mothers and fathers came from Cameroon or Algeria and all that kind of stuff. And I think the challenge for Africa has been, how do we build an infrastructure where we can keep all this talent, where we can keep, develop, and not have to send our raw material. And, you know, this is not just sports, but for the sake of this conversation, how can we keep our raw material and not have to send it to like France and Germany? How can we keep and develop our raw material? And that's, you know, right now, they've not been able to do that. They've got a lot of talent. The talent goes elsewhere and gets developed in Europe. And so I think that there's so much going on in this World Cup, but the big challenge for Africa is how to develop talent here. The big challenge for the United States, with all is the richest country on earth, is how do you create? I mean, there's no way that soccer in this country should be underdogs. You know, as much talent as you've got here, the idea that, but do you want to open up soccer in this country to everybody?
Right.
Do you want to get to everybody? So
and by the way, you know, a lot of the best soccer players in high school get recruited as kickers to play football. So by the time they get to college, they're getting more recruited to be the kicker. A lot of them kickers that are so great, they kick them long ball, they're soccer players. Let me show you this, because the other issue, you talk about this, and we're going to talk really quickly. There's the 20th anniversary of the book. But I want you to see this. There's a streamer named I Show Speeds, very popular Twitch streamer. Here's how he got treated by Argentina fans who are notorious for behaving real racist.
Yeah. Argentina's no day at the beach. Yeah.
What are you saying? What are you saying? Like, what are you even saying, bro? What are you saying? What are you saying?
You can turn down the sound, Jason.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
No, I can't say it on your show, but my attitude toward Argentina, I mean, I'm down with, you know, like Colombia, because they all have an African president. There's not one African in Argentina. And you know the whole history of Argentina.
Yep.
So
that's where the Nazis went.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm not. And they were out. The government was outspoken in saying we want to de-Africanize this country. So I ain't down with that at all. You know, I'm not down with Argentina at all. At all. Capital A, capital at all. I'm not down with that at all.
No. We want anybody to win but them and Norway.
But yeah, even Norway has a couple brothers on the team.
Do they? Okay, all right. We'll give Norway a break. But Argentina is the one we do not want them to win at all. Let's talk about $20 million slaves. This is the 20th anniversary. So it's almost the 40th anniversary. Is it the 40th anniversary?
No, $40 million slaves.
$40 million. Oh, okay. $40 million slave. I'm saying, don't cut their money in half. $40 million slave. Lord Jesus, he scared me. Said it was 40 years old. I was gonna feel 70, 90. When you wrote this book, talk about what brought it on and what you're going to be doing to commemorate the 20th anniversary of $40 million slaves.
Yeah. Well, you know, the idea, and I was kind of saying that there gets to be a point. Is right. This is a 9-year project, and it got to a point where I just want to get done. You know, it's kind of like Churchill or somebody said, when you're up to your neck in alligators, it's hard to remember you were there to drain the swamp. And so a lot of, but the idea of this, of the book really was two things. I've been working in this field, for so long, and I just saw, and I'm old enough to remember where these teams had quotas. So many black folks can play. Blacks can't play certain positions. They can't play thinking man's position. The NBA had quotas. And to see the evolution where NBA, like, 80% black, NFL 70% black, black quarterbacks are running, but the control factor, we still, there's still no majority ownership. We're still not owners. We don't own anything in basketball or football. When the book was written, there were 7 African-American head football coaches in the NFL. Now there are 3. So it's kind of like, so I wanted to examine the power dynamic, that visibility isn't necessary, getting a lot of money isn't power. Sometimes wealth isn't always power. Our next plateau is ownership. You know that, and it doesn't matter whether it's sports, media, whatever, you gotta own it. You have to own it. And so that's been the next frontier. So I want to do 2 things. I want to examine this power dynamic of African Americans in the business of sport and play. How do we get control over things? But the second thing was a history lesson, because you get around a lot of young people. I was speaking to a middle school class. This is when I first started writing the book, and I was during Black History Month. Of course, I was speaking to the middle school history class. Middle school class. And after I finished, a little girl said, "Yeah, Mr. Rhoden, that's fine, but who was the first white player to integrate the NBA?" Now think about that. She asked me the question, who was the first white player to integrate the NBA? And it kind of knocked me out. But then I realized that, you know what? For this generation, it's always been like that. For this generation, the NBA has always been predominantly Black. The NFL has always been 70% Black. And I think the tragedy of our young people is that when you do not know what is taken to get someplace, what is taken to break into the NBA, what is taken to own an equity company, what is taken to own, if you don't know what the struggle is, then you have no sense of struggle. And I think that as wealthy as players are in the NBA and NFL, I think they've lost touch of how this happened. And the only reminder, was with like when a Colin Kaepernick happens. And then I think, or not so much Colin Kaepernick, but when something traumatic happens in our community, then all of a sudden, when something happens so traumatic that whether you're conservative or liberal, whether you're Democrat, something happens that lets you know the establishment sees you as a you-know-what. Something traumatic has to happen like that to bring our communities together. So I want to write a book that endured and then gave a history lesson. And the thing I like about 40 Million Slaves is that 5 chapters are basically about history. And that history 100 years from now is going to be immovable. But the power dynamic, Joy, 20 years later, as you know, who would have guessed that we'd be here? So anyway.
Well, the book has endured indeed. You definitely wrote something incredibly enduring. $40 Million Slaves, the rise, fall, and redemption of the Black athlete. You're doing something on Sunday, I believe, to do a commemoration of the book. Tell me what that is.
We're having an event later this week in Manhattan, the Studio Museum.
Nice.
To just, I guess you want to call it celebrate. I'm hesitant to say celebrate, but I'm about the here and now. And I'm about the next 20 years. What will we know in 20 years that we don't know now? When this book came out, I couldn't have predicted that we'd be in this situation, that there'd be an all-out war on diversity, an all-out war on Black history, an all-out war on any type of Black progress. So it's just a reminder that it's a cliche, but the struggle continues. That it's an existential, never-ending journey. And I guess that's what I want these our under 40 people to understand, that, man, this is, no matter how many houses you got, no matter what, the struggle continues. So
indeed. Last question before I let you go, Bill. Do you think that, or do you have any reporting on whether the Knicks will be able to get out of having to go celebrate Donald Trump in the White House?
That's going to be one of the things that we're going to discuss because, and again, that gets to the whole thing about power, right? That you got a team full of millionaires, but do you have enough control? Because I know that there are guys on the team who ain't down with that, but the owner is. And the question is, no matter how much money you're making, do you have the power or the wealth or whatever to say, no, we're not going to be the first NBA team that goes visits this administration. So the answer to the question is, I'm really intrigued to see how this is going to play out.
You and me both. You and me
so-
both. William C. Rhoden, we call him Bill Rhoden because we know him. And he's our friend. Thank you very much, my friend. Congratulations on the 20th anniversary of $40 Million Slaves. You did that, brother. Thank you very much for being here.
Joy, thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, happy anniversary to Bill Rhoden. He is one of the OGs, one of the greatest, sports commentators and journalists in the business. Well, welcome to hour 2 of the Joy Reid Show. Now, do be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. If you're loving this content, we want to make sure that your algorithm treats you nice and treats us nice, and make sure that you always know when we're live. So hit that notification bell, hit all, and that way you'll always know when we are live. I do believe, I'm double checking, but we can't, the book is not in our store yet, but we're going to try to get into the store. It's a really great book if you haven't read it, $40 Million Slaves. But yes, the anniversary is coming up. Also, we'd love it if you'd hit share with a friend. We appreciate you helping us to grow the TJRS Nation. So go ahead and do that as well. We are trying to get to 500,000 subscribers. It's like a steady and wonderful climb, but we appreciate your help in doing that. Let me know that the Joy Reid Show is brought to you by our friends at Bluesky. Now listen, I got to get my sleep when I finally get to bed. I'm an insomniac, so anything I can do to try to help myself go to sleep, I'm going to do it. And having a little face mask over your face, sometimes you even get them on the plane and they're fine, but if they're like cotton, they can actually not great things for your skin. And even satin is not necessarily going to be the best thing to put against your skin if you're really trying to also, make your dermatologist happy. So what Bluesky has that a lot of these other brands do not is wonderful 100% silk. It is cooling, it's gentle, makes your skin look better, and is excellent for skin health. And Bluesky also makes an amazing pillowcase. You could pop on your pillow, and then that will do the same thing that your Bluesky mask is doing to keep it nice and dark so you can sleep, and will do the same wonderful thing for your hair. It can also help with anti-aging and also helps with hydration. And look, the reality is we are trying to use high quality products that are not high priced. And Bluesky uses the highest quality silk. It's 22 mum 6A grade, 100% pure mulberry silk. The added benefits, again, cooling, breathable, hydrating, hypoallergenic, dermatologist tested and recommended. They're also fully machine washable because we don't want to have to go out of our way to take care of the products that we buy. They come in more than 100 colors. They've got wicked Harry Potter designs. They've got Zodiac collection, all the most fabulous things. More than 3 million sold. They're featured in Vogue, Oprah Daily, Good Morning America. They've won 13 awards. It's a practical, wonderful gift for your mom, for your auntie, even your dad. If he's got a fro that needs to take care of, get one for Ellie Mistal. They've got all sorts of things. The sleep masks are my favorite, and they're great. And I especially do love the pillowcase as well. If you'd like to try it because you are a member of the Joy Reid Show family, Bluesky's offering a 60-night risk-free guarantee plus an additional 30% off when you shop at bluesky.com/joypod. It's BLISSY.com/joypod, POD, and use the code JOYPOD, JOYPOD, to get an additional 30% off. Your skin and hair will thank you. Wake up with clearer skin, smoother hair, and cooler sleep. Use code JOYPOD for an extra 30% off at bluesky.com/joypod. Okay. So I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I want to big up our I Gotta Boo No Harry Potter from Winston. Okay, don't get the Harry Potter design. Okay, get a different one. That's if you like Harry Potter. If you don't, then just leave that alone. Get something else. I got to know on that one. So we're going to do no. I got to know for there. Okay. We're going to do this Graham Plattner breaking news in just a moment. Well, let me just do it now. Apparently, Graham Plattner, the Senate nominee, says he is taking time off to reflect on the best path forward after a woman told CNN and Politico that he raped her when he was heavily intoxicated nearly 5 years ago when they were in a casual dating relationship. Lord Jesus. So that we're going to set that aside as a news item, but because we're going to have to figure out what these Democrats are going to do, not having proper candidate vetting before people win primaries, because I believe that primary already happened. So if you're taking a step back, buddy, what does that actually mean? I don't know. So that is something we'll put a pin in as some breaking news that unfortunately is a thing that's happening. Let me do a little bit of other news that is a little less infuriating because, that race in Maine, it's very, very important for Democrats to pick up that seat. And if Graham Plattner was not ready for prime time, he should have pulled out of that race before the primary because there was a third candidate that was in there that could have taken that position. And if he doesn't wind up running, what's the process? What's the process for getting someone else in his place? It's so irritating and infuriating when Democrats can't be properly vetted before they become the nominee. It's super ridiculously annoying. So he's already the Democratic candidate. Susan Collins, she must have really sold her soul to the devil because she got a lot of good luck like Trump. The hell. Okay, I'm sorry that I saw that. I was just looking in our Slack and there it is. But let's talk about somebody that's a lot more positive. There's a gentleman named Major Jason Watson. And some of you have sent this story to our news tips at thejoyreidshow.com. Big up to our viewers who sent us this one. More than one of you recommended this story. I had known about it, but we hadn't done it yet. So we're going to do it now. This is a young man who's risked a lot in order to make a very important call to action. And I think it's an important one because we talk a lot about the lack of consequences for these politicians who do things that seem to quite blatantly violate either the law, the norms, or the Constitution. And nothing seems to happen when that happens. And the person that's probably had the most impunity in American political history, I would argue, is Donald Trump. He has never faced real, genuine consequences for anything he's done. This thing that we just saw Graham Plattner say he's stepping back from, Donald Trump was accused of sexual abuse. He was accused of rape by E. Jean Carroll. And his response to that was not to say, let me step back and step aside and reevaluate whether I should be running for office or whether I should be president. His response to that was to say, I didn't do that. She's not even my type, as if rape is about who you're attracted to. He literally lied and said that he didn't grab her by the P-U-S-S-Y, even though he's on tape saying that he could because he's a star. And his response was not to say, you know what, this is a moment when I need to take a step back and rethink my life and my political career. He leaned all the way in, and so did his supporters, even the women. And so he's gotten this sense of complete impunity that he can do whatever he wants, that he can say whatever he wants, that he can get away with crime. They can get away with enriching himself to the tune of $2 trillion or $2 billion, or not trillion, $2 billion, while his supporters who bought his crypto coins have lost like $1 billion. So they're losing money and he's making money. He's literally stealing from his own fans. And they are like, please, sir, can I have some more? They're losing their farms. They're losing their jobs. And even after he was adjudicated by a civil jury to have done the crime against E. Jean Carroll, which unfortunately she had to sue him for in civil court because the statute of limitations ran out, and he wouldn't have gone to jail anyway because clearly he can get away with murder. Even after the jury said, you did it, man, he's refusing to pay her because he also defamed her by lying about her and saying he didn't do it. And he did, perjury, no consequences. And so there's this young man named Major Jason Watson, who's an active duty member of the United States military. He said, you know what, enough. People in the threads telling me that Mitch McConnell has passed. Okay, we're going to try to verify that. I want you guys to listen while we try to verify this Mitch McConnell news. Major Jason Watson, it's a bit long, it's about 7 minutes, but I want you to listen to the case he made for why Donald Trump and J.D. Vance should face consequences for the things that they have done that violate the Constitution. Here it is, C1.
I, Jason Paul Watson, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I'm about to enter. So help me God. I first swore this oath over 20 years ago upon entering basic cadet training at the United States Air Force Academy in late June of 2005. I've repeated it many times over since then. The oath of office means everything to me. It is foundational to our system of governance in the United States. The oath ensures that officials of our government owe allegiance not to any individual or political party, but to our Constitution and the democratic republic it represents. Our Constitution binds us all together as Americans. Like countless veterans before me and military members serving now, I have devoted my life in service to our democratic republic, always doing my best to honor my oath and protect America against foreign threats. But the greatest threat to our democratic republic is not a foreign one. It is us, we the people, not just the left or just the right or just the center, all of us together define who we are as Americans. And like it or not, we have all played a part, myself included, in getting ourselves into this mess we are all in. The burden of that culpability is much heavier for some amongst us than others. Undeniably, and for those with a lion's share of guilt, such as those currently running the executive branch of the government, the bill must come due. But all of us have a share. For the past 18 months, we the people have allowed the highest levels of the executive branch of the federal government to violate our Constitution and their oaths to it with impunity. When the President of the United States orders military action against foreign countries, absent an emergency scenario where American interests are under imminent, dire threat, as was done with Venezuela, Cuba, and Iran, that's an unconstitutional usurpation of Congress's authority and a violation of the War Powers Clause. These violations resulted in the deaths of 13 service members and injuries of hundreds more. For this, the President and Vice President must be impeached, convicted, and removed. When the President of the United States grants an unelected mega donor sweeping authority to shut down large swaths of our federal government, along with unrestricted access to our government databases, that's an unconstitutional circumvention of Congress's advise and consent authority under the Appointments Clause and Congress's power of the purse under the Appropriations Clause. These violations exposed every American's personal sensitive data to leaks and exploitation, illegally terminated tens of thousands of federal civil servants, and crippled support for Americans for medical care and disaster preparedness, and by far most tragically, resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of the world's most impoverished people with inhumanely abrupt cessation of U.S. aid. For this, the President and Vice President must be impeached, convicted, and removed. When the President of the United States directs the Department of Homeland Security to deny hundreds of people any due process before illegally detaining them and sending them to a foreign prison notorious for human rights abuses, that's a violation of our Fifth and Eighth Amendment rights. Most people sent to CCOT never committed any violent crimes in their entire lives, but are being defamed as violent criminals to this day as a pretext for the torture they suffered in El Salvador, paid for with U.S. taxpayer dollars. For this, the President and Vice President must be impeached, convicted, and removed. When the President of the United States sponsors violence on the American people, engaged in their constitutional right to peacefully assemble and protest, that's a violation of our First Amendment rights. Pastors praying for DHS agents violently attacked without provocation, a legal observer losing an eye after being shot with a non-lethal by an ICE agent, a woman attempting to follow chaotic and contradictory DHS agent instructions fatally gunned down, a subdued man that posed no threat fatally shot after having his unbrandished firearm removed, with statements by high-ranking cabinet members also violating our Second Amendment rights. For this, the President and Vice President must be impeached, convicted, and removed. There are innumerable more impeachable offenses that I could cover. Denying congressional oversight of immigrant detention centers that look increasingly like CCOT. Suing institutions like media, colleges, and law firms for billions of dollars while abusing the authorities of the executive branch agencies to extort settlements. Allowing a mega donor to advertise products on the White House front lawn. trading pardons for donations, levying illegal tariffs, weaponizing the Department of Justice against political adversaries while ignoring crimes of supporters and enablers, attempting to reverse birthright citizenship through executive order. For all of these high crimes and misdemeanors, the president and vice president must be impeached, convicted, and removed. The constitutional impeachment process is our best pathway to restore fidelity to our Constitution. This is why I'm here, standing in solidarity with Representative Green. I'm not here because I'm a Democrat or because I share his policy positions. I'm not a Democrat and know next to nothing about his policies. I'm here with him because Representative Green is the only member of Congress that has demonstrated the courage and conviction to invoke Rule 9 and force a vote on articles of impeachment.
And that is Major Jason Watson. He was arrested following that protest. And if you look at that video that we just played, that Jason just played, you will see standing behind Major Jason Johnson, Jolly Good Ginger, who we've had on the show, one of our faves, the angry veteran, who's the guy with the very long beard, and the man who was given a shout out by Major Johnson, and that would be Texas Representative Al Green, one of our favorites on this show, and he joins me now. The fighting Democrat from the great state of Texas. Hello, Congressman Green.
It's my honor to be with you, Joy. Hello, and I hope things are going well with you because you are a voice for the people. Thank God.
Thank you, and thank God for you. I'm not going to express my absolute anger and disappointment at the outcome in that race that you were running for re-election and the redistricting in Texas. But we so appreciate you, good brother. You're one of our absolute favorites from the very beginning of this show. You've been fighting the good. We've been talking about you and talking you up because you fight the good fight for the American people. Please tell me how you came to be standing with Major Jason Mayor Watson, sorry, who was arrested, and what do you know about what his status is as of now?
Well, thank you very much. I was called by someone that I've been working with for years now, and that is Jessica. Jessica Denson has a movement, the Impeach, Convict, and Removal movement. And she asked me if I would assist Major Watson in getting the triangle. You have to have a member to get that area that they were in. And I consented, of course. I thought that anyone who wants to do something that's going to help the cause should be aided. Now, I did not initially think that this was the best idea because I was concerned about him. I was concerned about his 17-year career, concerned about his family. And by the way, I won't get into what his family is made up of because there's some very ugly people in this world. And if we start talking about his family, they may focus on them as opposed to him. So I was concerned about all of these things, but because I was informed that he had been given the admonitions necessary such that he should know what the consequences are, but he still wanted to proceed. So I agreed to help them get the triangle. And when I got there, I was one of the many people who came to sort of witness this act of courage, courage that we don't see, uncommon courage, I might say. So I was there to witness this act of courage. And as I stood there, I started to think and reflect on a bygone era, on things that have happened that I'm aware of. Rosa Parks. I reflected on Rosa Parks and what it was like for a Black woman in a racist Southern town to take that seat on that bus, knowing that the consequences could be dire. They took her to jail, but in that city, it could have been much more than this in terms of the harm that might befall her. So I thought about her. I even thought about Dr. King in the Birmingham jail. You know, when you're reflecting and you're thinking and you're looking at a person. Now, I'm not saying what he did is the equivalent of what Dr. King did or what Rosa Parks did, but I am saying that it was uncommon courage. And when he finished and he had given his great exposition about what should be done with the president and vice president, that's when it was made very clear to me that he was going to go over to the steps and he wanted to go up the steps. Well, as a member of Congress, I can escort a person up the steps, and the consequences won't be the same as when the person goes up by himself to protest. I walked over with him. This was what he said he wanted to do. So I had to step away if he was to pursue his desires. So I did step away. But if I could have stood there with him, I would have. It would not have been the same because he wanted to make it very clear that he was willing to suffer consequences to make it known to the public that what the president is doing is unconstitutional. He went up those steps and he stood there with his sign, and he was arrested. He has been since released from custody from the Capitol Police, but he's in the hands of the military. They don't say he's incommunicado, but he is under a gag order. And for me, that's pretty much the same thing. So we can't really communicate with him. I can't. If I could, I would. I'm going to do whatever I can to help him because of the uncommon courage. And I also will say this, he's inspired me. I've been thinking about doing something more, and I've been working with other people to get it done. John Boniface is a constitutional scholar that I've worked with, and we are talking about doing something more. We cannot allow this kind of behavior emanating from the presidency to be unchallenged. You don't have to wait until you can win to fight. If Dr. King had waited until he could win to fight, we might not be where we are today. If Rosa Parks had waited until she could win, we might not have had the integration of that bus line. You can't wait until you can win. You have to fight when the time suggests that wrong is manifesting itself and the right thing to do is fight. Dr. King said the time is always right to do what is right. So we're going to continue this fight, but I'm so proud of this man, and I regret the consequences that he will suffer. John Lewis and I, while incarcerated together, talked about how you have to be prepared to suffer the consequences when you do these kinds of acts of defiance. But the acts are righteous fights. And I live by this phraseology. On some issues, Joy, on some issues, it's better to stand alone than not stand at all. I commend him for what he's done. I'm going to have a flag flown over the Capitol in his honor. I'm going to present him with the certificate of congressional recognition. I have the authority to do that. I will do it, regardless as to what others will.
The thing about, and you know, I played a substantial part of his speech because I wanted people to hear the context. You're going to get maybe 30 seconds or 60 seconds on the mainstream media, if they play it at all, if they pay any attention to this story at all. But I wanted people to hear his case, if not in completion, but a lot of it, so that you could really understand where he was coming from. And as you said, that kind of courage does not get enough attention as we await the midterms for Democrats to do something. And you, sir, have demonstrated in your own act of courage when you stood up inside of the State of the Union that you don't necessarily have to wait until you have a voting majority to try to do something, to make a statement, to make a stand. And it concerns me, sir, that the Democratic Party, which I have grown up in, lacks that spirit other than a small number of you. And there seems to be a reticence to do anything now, and Democrats are simply waiting to get the gavels, and then they're going to do something. And then I'm not confident of what they're going to do. Do you know what they plan to do if and when they get the majority?
I cannot say that I do, but I can say this. I firmly believe, Joy, that some of us are liberated Democrats. Liberated, unbossed, unbought, unafraid. And I encourage liberated Democrats to do what you're doing. You are, whether you acknowledge it or label yourself or style yourself as such, you are a liberated person. You speak truth to power, and you speak truth about power. You use the term mainstream media. We know who you're talking about. I use the term status quo media because they're not interested in really ending racism, for example. They want us to manage it. I want to end it. So we're at odds with each other. And that's why I can come on your program and we can talk freely about these things. But the status quo media doesn't want to hear me. They want to hear talking points that have almost been agreed to before you go on the program. Well, nobody knows what I'm going to say when they ask me on, so they're reluctant to do this. And the point is this, I cannot tell you what others will do, but I can tell you what I will do. Before the end of this term, I will bring additional articles of impeachment because the president is a target-rich environment. I mean, it's just not one thing. You heard this major go through just a litany of things that we can give a focus to. We have to do this because it is the right thing for posterity. We want those who will look upon this time, when they look through the vista of time and they see us, they want to know that we were fighters. And there are some people now in my party who are calling the fight performative. This is just performative. And they talk about how they're being strategic. Well, I just don't know how strategic you can be when you see what's happening to your country, when you see what's happening to the people, when you see what's happening to the future that they're painting for us. When you have these people marching through the streets now again with masks on and in their regalia, and they are people who are calling themselves white nationalists. Well, that's the KKK by another name. That's the White Citizens Council by another name. That's the all wrong alt-right by another name. These are just thin veneers that hide hate. And we cannot allow this veneer to continue without piercing it and saying what it is and calling them out and doing the things necessary to fight them. It's not performative. And it is not strategic to just say, well, I'm going to wait. That's not strategic. That is avoiding the fight that we have before us and that we ought to engage in now. So I commend you. I thank you for what you're doing. And I thank all of the people who are willing to have this uncommon courage to stand even when you have to stand alone. Just stand. You've heard the song. After you've done all you can, just stand. Stand. Just
Amen. And I will note that he has a GoFundMe, Major Jason Watson, and we're going to put a link up to the GoFundMe for his family, because you're right. There are costs and consequences to taking the stand that he did. And we hope and pray that more will follow, because it is people like him who Donald Trump is eager to send into a war that his own sons won't fight, that he won't send his own sons to, while he's reaping uncommon benefits from the presidency and enriching himself to the tune of $2 billion that he couldn't earn doing his actual profession, being a real estate developer. He's suddenly just stealing it from his own supporters, and no one is doing anything about it. The emoluments clause is all out the window. But let's talk about whether or not this Congress can. Sorry, sir.
May I just say one word about what you just said about the monetary emoluments that he's according himself?
Please.
Joy. Everybody who invested in the meme coin invested in nothing.
That's right.
I have been saying this. Maxine Waters has been telling people this. And it takes the mainstream media, as you call it, the status quo media, as I identify them, when they're ready to say it, then it's okay. And it seems to give other Democrats and Republicans a license to speak. Well, we don't have to wait on the mainstream media to give us a license to tell people that they're investing in nothing, because it's a Ponzi scheme.
Yes.
It is. It's built upon the greater fool theory, the belief that although I'm buying a foolish thing, this is fatuous folly, there's a person who are willing to engage in fatuous folly at a higher price. That's what it is. And we've been telling people this, but now the status quo media has decided that it's okay to talk about it. So you'll see more people talking about it now. But Maxine Waters, an avant-garde politician, we have been trying to get this message across. And I thank you for just embracing it briefly. And I'm sorry that I interrupted your floor.
No, please. I am here to listen to and avail myself of your wisdom, sir. No, I mean, the reality is Donald Trump paid those people who performed at the UFC extravaganza of violence and insult to Michelle Obama in crypto coin, which is no money, meaning all of those fools perform for free. Yeah. So when that crypto, the value of it crashes, those fools will found out they worked for free. And so what's happening is they have invented their own money, and they pay their foolish friends and supporters in that fake money. They're not even wise enough to demand real money. They're scamming their own friends. And it's as you said, we'll just go ahead and call them that. The status quo media acts as if this is totally normal, and they're now asking questions about it, not because you said it or because Congresswoman Maxine Waters is an expert. And she's a chairwoman of a committee that literally oversees it. They don't want to know what she has to say. It's because MAGA fans are upset. MAGA fans are now complaining. Donald Trump's supporters are complaining. So now it's a story.
Well, I'm proud to sit on that committee with her. And at some point, we need to have a greater discussion about this cryptocurrency and all of what it portends, because you hit on something when you said creating their own money. You know, it really is against the law to have another fiat currency. There's only one fiat currency in this country. And there are laws against trying to privatize your own currency. There really are. But when the president of the United States is doing it, he legitimizes it. And then you've got a Supreme Court that backs him up. And I really shouldn't go that far. I'm getting for a field. But the point is, there's so much to be said about what's happening here. And I'm going to talk about it at my ALC event in September about this cryptocurrency and what's going on and what it really portends for the future.
Well, I would like to be at that and also have you on to talk about it, because we have to get into a whole deep discussion on this. Before I let you go, sir, I do want to let you comment on this. I believe future Pulitzer Prize winning image of the modern day Klan sitting on a metro car with a Black woman who, you put this in black and white, this could be 1950. But I would love to get your thoughts on this image and on what happened in Washington, D.C. this weekend.
What happened in Washington, D.C. is an abomination. People expect us to celebrate the 4th of July, but a celebration without a commemoration is a detestation. Don't ask me to celebrate and you don't commemorate what happened to those people who worked for more than 240 years without a payday, who helped to build the roads and the bridges, planted the seeds, harvested the crop, had a hand in building the White House, had a hand in building the Capitol. They are the economic, foundational mothers and fathers of this country. So if you're going to celebrate those that we refer to as founding fathers, not me personally, but those persons, then let's celebrate also the economic foundational mothers and fathers, the enslaved people whose lives were sacrificed to make America what it is today. And that is what I found to be offensive about celebrating the 4th of July without a commemoration of those lives that were sacrificed. And then to have these persons storm out in the streets. And then to take this bus ride with this, it looks like an innocent child in a sense, you know, almost a babe sitting there. Now, I can only ask myself, what is she thinking? What does she feel? You know, if I were there, I would be questioning my safety, to be quite candid with you. But just to see this, it makes us harken back to when we were trying to integrate schools and you saw the mobs, the angry mobs that were just voicing their hate at a child trying to make her way through to a classroom. No harm being imposed. So here we are now with the latest version, the latest metamorphosis of the Klan, and they have this young person surrounded. It really is something that has the potential to become another example of how hate can surround you and how you have to sometimes endure that which you would not ordinarily want to. My hope is that she made it home safely. I assume as much, but I don't wish that upon anybody. Rosa Parks sitting on that bus, similar. Her sitting there, taking people to school, innocent babies. These are the kinds of pictures that will haunt us through the times that we live in and beyond. They will haunt us.
Indeed. Congressman Al Green, thank you, sir, for all that you do. And we will see you in September because we want to follow up on what you're doing. And we're going to also keep up with your push. And you are alone in this, and I am sad about that as well, in this push to impeach this president. Again, he deserves it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'll tell y'all, when we go back and look in history, that photo, but also the photo of Representative Al Green holding up his cane and shaking it at that Congress, those are going to go into history because the 2020s are the rebirth of the 1920s. It just is a fact. And remember, in the 1920s, those very same Klan who were marching mask on or mask off with their hoods on through the Capitol are the very same kinds of people who claimed that Black men were rapists, but then would grab Black men, women, and children and lynch them in front of children. They would bring their children to lynchings. It was the most violent era in this country's history. These people murdered more than 4,000 Black men, women, and even pregnant women and children, throwing forcing Black boys to jump off of a bridge into ice cold water and drown, shooting, killing, burning alive. Every manner of horror were meted out by the very people who now claim that Black people are inherently violent.
And that we should basically just, be happy,
Or leave.
Yeah.
I mean, these people, their core claim is that they can't live with Black people because Black people are inherently violent and inherently criminal, but they come from a tradition that is a tradition of skinning people alive and using the skin as leather to make furniture, of consuming the bodies of Black enslaved people in post-slavery, of throwing little Black babies, boys and girls, into the river in order to draw out alligators and then calling it gator bait and then putting the murder on postcards. These are people who, again, on a Sunday would go to church and then on Sunday evening go and lynch a child or a woman or a man and then shoot the body full of holes. And then the pieces of the body that fell on the ground, they would take them home as souvenirs. This is the most violent culture. It is the right. It is conservatism. It is right-wingery. These people have always been the single most violent people in the country, and I would say in the world. These people are inherently, excruciatingly, extravagantly violent. And even when they're not doing violence, their thoughts are violent. They want to violently deport people who've been in the country for 25, 30, 40, 50 years simply because they cannot stand to hear Spanish spoken at CBS. That makes them so enraged. They see a Somali and they lose their natural mind. They can't stand the thought of immigrants thriving in their neighborhoods. They're so angry and mean that they don't think they should share a water fountain with a Black person, but they think the same Black person who shouldn't be able to drink from the water fountain should take her breast and stick it in the mouth of their baby and feed them like she's a cow giving milk. These people are insane, and they are the same people. Sorry, Jason. They're the same people. They're just 100 years later. What's the difference? And they're claiming that they have to do this to protect themselves and their women from violence.
But do they, though? The point is, and I want to say, this sister right here, I really wish we could track her down because I'd love to interview her. Because I can say right now, the fact that she's not sitting towards the train window, she's sitting in the seat that she's sitting right now, she's literally like, just please try me. I mean, she's DC.
She said, try
Look
Jesus.
at her face. She's like, yo, listen, I don't care how I'm better than her. This ain't my grandmother. I will whoop that ass, at least try to. But she didn't move into the inside. She's sitting right there, brave. I give the sister all the respect in the world.
I think part of that seating is saying that seat's not available. Because if you move to the window, that seat next to you is available. And she made it quite clear that there was no second seat available on that bench. That on that bench is going to be one person on the bench. She made it very clear. All she had to do was move over and one of them demons might have sat next to her. But she said, not today, Satan, y'all clan. Like the line from Sinners. The same thing that I'm sure a lot of those security guards felt when all of those MAGA had to come and shelter inside the naming, inside the Black Sony. And they were like, y'all clan, it's a sinner's moment. I'm telling you, that sister right there, she
got to go to work.
Up.
I ain't trying to play with y'all. I got to get to work. Y'all better not.
No devils.
Listen,
no one's sitting next to me. She said,
this
y'all
is
can
2026. We can scrap. You know what I mean?
She said, y'all
we
can
are
stand.
modern day Black folk.
And also the fact that I think the other thing that's arresting about this picture is here is a young woman, as the congressman said, she looks super young. She's there in her T-shirt on a hot summer day, sitting in the tram, and these fools are there dressed up in uniforms with masks over their faces. They got to be hot as hell. They're sticking their noses out from under the mask, some of them, because they know they can't breathe. They probably halfway catching heat stroke and barely understand, like they're not dressed for the weather, and they're sitting there probably hot as hell, probably funky as all get out. And she said, you know what, though? All I know is at least one of y'all probably could have had a seat, but won't. Not today. You're not sitting next to me. And I think that's why she's sitting in that seat, because she's like, you are not. I wish a motherfucker would. She said, you ain't sitting next to me. Absolutely not. And I think that her, clear defiance and strength in that moment of being surrounded by modern day Klan, she said, I'm
not moving.
I'm not moving.
You could stand your ass up right there. This time you're going to stand up and I'm going to sit my ass down. Yes, there is a seat beside me and you can't sit there either.
You can't sit in it. Stand your ass up, your Klan ass up. And the thing about it is that these people, the reality is we all know that these cowardly men who claim that they're saving Western civilization, but have to do so from behind a mask because they know that they want to take off the mask, then finally be able to breathe, put on a suit and tie, and walk their asses into the OPM and get a job that used to be populated by a qualified Black woman. They want so badly to have that woman's job. The idea that a Black woman or an Asian American man or an LGBTQ person or a woman had a federal job and benefits and healthcare, it makes them so angry that even if they're not qualified for it, they're like, that's my job because I'm a white European man. Even if my name is Rousseau and my people were not here in the founding of the country, they'd have popped over in the 20th century, they feel so entitled to the legacy of the American experiment. But if you took away all the people of color who they want to remove, number one, your soccer team wouldn't be shit because your main player is an immigrant. Your basketball teams wouldn't be shit because most of the players are Black. Your football teams wouldn't be shit because most of the players are Black. And this is not because of some inherent superiority of Black people. It's because Black people have fewer options as young people. The way out in a lot of, the hood is sports. Sports is pushed on Black people as a way to get out. I wish we'd push more young Black people to get out, as a lawyer or a doctor, whatever, but that's expensive. Sports is a way out. You can have a basketball. You don't need a lot of money to play basketball in the neighborhoods. They get really good. If you're sitting in the, suburbs and you can play hockey or, do whatever, everyone's going to use their own means of trying to come up in the world. And there are a lot of young Black men who spend a lot of time playing ball and they're really good at it. Same reason a lot of Eastern Europeans are good at basketball because that's the only way to get out of, Slovenia. They're like, I got to get out of Slovenia. So they play ball and they're really good. And so that's just the reality. You built a country where one of the strongest paths out is sports. And then you're pissed off that all the good athletes are Black. But what other lane did you leave them? What other lanes did you offer? They're going to take the lane you offer. And because Black people are formidable and very difficult to destroy, Black people are going to thrive and survive and are going to be the best at whatever lane you give because you've left little choice. You've left little choice. And then when they take you up on it and they're great, then you're pissed off. And these men would not want to live in the country they're trying to create. It's the fair that I was at this weekend. That was the MAGA ideal world. And the MAGA ideal world was dry. It was soulless. They had a hootenanny that even their own people wouldn't dance to. The poor guy was playing the fiddle with all his might and no one was enjoying it. There was like one mom with a kid, but it seemed like she was more interested in standing under the shade, which is one of the only shady areas, was to stand there and listen to his stupid hootenanny. You had no soul. You had no flavor. You had a lot of security, a lot of barriers. Whoever owns that fencing company, they made a lot of money. They must have had a huge contract because it was all fenced in. The whole of DC, which is such a beautiful city, looked like a barricaded post-war zone, surrounded by gates and impossible to get near. This Freedom 250 gate was all around it. The whole thing was just so sad that this is the 250th birthday of the 250th birthday of the country, the supposed richest, greatest country on earth. This is what we got. This was embarrassing. This was poorly planned. Clearly, they didn't have a decent event planner. It was plasticky, cheap, poorly made. It was pathetic. It was as pathetic as MAGA, and it was full of religious signaling, weak, weird virtue signaling from the Bible, and it was just flavorless. It was unseasoned. There was nothing about it that said to me it was celebration. Probably the best part of it was the students who made art, and the art they made was that. They said, let me big up women and indigenous people and Black people. That's when young people had their own choice, this is what they drew. But the rest of the whole fair, and this was the National Endowment for the Arts, I think, that did this contest. And look what the kids drew. The kids get it. The kids understand what makes America great, what makes America America. The rest of these people, they were out here on some fake, weird Bible crap. Can I show Jason the, I think this is D1, the pool. Can I show you guys the pool? I also went to the reflecting pool. Look at this. It's surrounded by a fence. You can't go near it because they're afraid someone's going to touch it. And you can't really hear it because the sound is pretty low and I wasn't trying to get real close to them. But the people next to me as I was filming this, were with it was a mother, father, and 2 children, young, sort of early teens, and they were telling their children that the reason they couldn't get close to the pool is because someone jumped in the pool and cut a 350-foot gash in it. They completely believed the propaganda. They believed it. The thing, it looked.
It's like a bowl of pea soup.
I said it's like a bowl of pea soup. It's sad that that's our reflecting pool now. It looks like when you go to an old motel and the motel has a pool, but it's all covered in moss. It's so sad looking. And you walk down it and you can't get near it because the whole thing is surrounded by that barbed wire fence. That fence company made a mint. The color, I mean, I don't even think my video really reflects it enough. It just looks like a sad bowl of pea soup. It looks sad, and the whole district looks sad. Very, very sad. We're still trying to confirm this information about Mitch McConnell. There's lots of information that he is still hospitalized. Up to 4 hours ago, the New York Times was reporting that there have been few updates on his condition, but he was hospitalized way back on June 14th. June 14th, the most recent statement per the New York Times from McConnell's office on Thursday that the senator appreciates the outpouring of support he's receiving while he continues his recovery in the hospital. Bullshit. Yet another person that should just resign. Let me also report on this Graham Plattner news. Apparently, Plattner does have time to get out of the race. Plattner could drop out of the race by July 13. He has 1 week to do what he this is what you need to do, you idiot. Now look, I was willing to, let it go that you were a young man and you got a stupid tattoo and you were a Marine and you didn't know no better. Fine. You had a good progressive message. I'm like, we can go ahead and roll with it. I'm like, it's Maine's choice. It's not my choice, but if that's what they want, as long as you're not AIPAC, good. But now, you probably should just take advantage of the 1 week you have left. But here's the challenge. The Democratic Party leadership, who are now calling for Graham Plattner to drop out, they are, I'm sure, teeing up an AIPAC candidate to replace him. The idea is that now Chuck Schumer, I suppose, would like to weigh in heavily on who gets to replace Graham Plattner. And you can best believe AIPAC is looking for a stooge that will go in there and do their bidding. And so if you are a progressive in Maine, you got 1 week to find a progressive candidate that does not take PAC money and that is not going to continue to deliver Maine, the votes of the United States Senate in Maine, to more bombs and not enough health care.
You got to be another Kamala Harris. You got like 107 days.
You got 7 days. Forget the 100. You got 7 days. Democrats need to flip this seat. Let me also know that Valerie McMorrow has dropped out in the Michigan Senate race. So Abdul Al-Sayed, who was already leading in the primary, he had about 33% of the vote. Valerie McMorrow, who actually was pretty great. She came up as one of the loudest voices fighting against this so-called education secretary and all the bullshit they're doing. She's dropped out. She only had about 7.7% of the vote. He had about 35%. There's a third person named Haley Stevens, who's a sitting congresswoman. She is the AIPAC choice. So AIPAC, which has put millions of dollars, about $16 million AIPAC has put in to try to not have Abdul Al-Sayed be the nominee. They're mad at him because he has not affirmed this thing that is only asked about Israel. No one ever asked this about Sweden or the United States or any of the rest of them, whether or not Israel has the right to exist as a Jewish state. And he answered, I think, the most logical answer. It exists. Israel exists. The question is whether or not we want a politics where our money is sent over to Israel to do genocide and apartheid instead of investing in our own kids. This is not a crazy answer. I think it's the right answer. No state has the right to exist. States exist. They exist through force, as Ta-Nehisi Coates has said. Asking whether a state has a right to exist is a stupid question.
Joy, real quick, right? I'm seeing some comments in here. People are saying Planter should stay in. I know it's kind of late.
Too late. The reality is, well, I mean, look, this is where we have the grown-up conversation.
And I don't want to say
Y'all
that
have
because
7 days, but it's clear that the people who oppose Plattner, and It would not surprise
I don't want to get them bastards a win. I'm dead.
No, but what I'm saying is they're going to keep throwing more of this at. They're going to be women coming out the woodwork making these allegations. They're going to keep doing it until he either loses to Susan Collins, who, by the way, voted to confirm Kavanaugh. So there's not a lot of righteousness on the Republican side. That woman voted to affirm to send Brett Kavanaugh to a lifetime seat on the Supreme Court, despite the fact that he was credibly accused of sexually assaulting a high school classmate and had other women during his college years make similar allegations. She didn't have a problem with that. So she's not going to be able to say a whole hell of a lot if Graham Plattner's the nominee. She better not say a whole hell of a lot, because it's like, excuse me, ma'am, you didn't have a problem with Kavanaugh. Talk to us about Kavanaugh, and then you can talk about Plattner. So he could really literally say that. Right. And does the DNC know how to vet candidates? Clearly not. And this wouldn't be the DNC, but also the DSCC, the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee. Do they vet anybody? Clearly not. Or neither does the D-Trip, because what's his name was in there. Sorry, Jason.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, if Bernie Sanders backs away, and if a couple of these other people like him back away, then the writing's on the wall. He's got to go. But I'm torn on this, because I personally think he should stay in and run.
You think he should stay? I mean, the reality is, I'm saying as a matter of pragmatic
politics.
I
get what you're saying, and I don't want to be that guy
thing.
Saying that, but I just think he should just stay.
It's up to Maine, to me. But here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to tell y'all, Democrats. If that fool stays in, I don't want to hear another word about it. Beat that heifer on the other side. Stop bitching and moaning about it. Y'all either keep him and stop bitching about it, and put your head down and run through the damn tape. Or he gets out now while Democrats have time to find somebody else that can run without having all of this baggage. But
they
it
don't have
can't
enough time
be
for
an
that.
APAC person.
It's going to be an APAC person. They don't have enough time. It's going to be an APAC person. If somebody's not in the race now, they don't have time. And the easiest person to do, APAC said, we got a whole bunch of people we can put in that spot.
They have, I think if APAC can come up with someone, so can the progressive. If there's somebody, and I don't know Maine politics well enough to know who that might be, but you cannot tell me that this is the only progressive available that doesn't take PAC money and is not going to be beholden to Israel and literally spending bombs.
Trust Chuck Schumer to find that person.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I do not trust Chuck Schumer to pick. I do not trust the DSCC.
So who else is going to pick?
I do not trust them at all. I think the progressives in Maine, the same people who picked him, need to tell us who your plan B was. I hope y'all had a plan B like they did in California when Eric Swalwell was your plan A. Y'all didn't have a plan B. So look, y'all weren't even ready for that. So y'all need to be ready. Y'all not vetting these damn candidates. What's wrong with y'all? Let's do one more story. This is so we're going to keep an eye on the Mitch McConnell situation. We're going to keep an eye on the Maine situation. Well, we're going to have a thick show on Wednesday, y'all. We got to. They said, does Mom Donnie know? Good. Call Mom Donnie. Ask him, does he have any friends in Maine? Does Mom Donnie know anybody in Maine? Because clearly he's the only one who knows how to pick candidates. It's so sad. Democrats are going to find a way to F up the midterms.
Don't they always?
They're going to find a way to F it up every single time. Somebody said this is some Manchurian candidate mess. I'm starting to wonder about that. Rena Wiley says it's some Manchurian. It's almost like these Democrats are running deliberately to undermine the ability of the party to win. It's almost like deliberate at this point. My God, Stephen King. Hey, can Stephen King step in? That's what I'm talking about. See, that's the kind of thinking. Wonder Doggy has come up with a great idea. That is what needs to happen. If Stephen King, who is maybe the most famous person from Maine, one of the few people that any of us even know from Maine, Stephen King, this is your moment. You need to step up and save your country. You only have to serve one term, buddy. You serve one term. I don't know how old Stephen King is, but brother, it's time for you to step forward. You have the fame. You have the name ID. You alone, sir, could step in and in 7 days be able to ramp up to be the nominee who would absolutely beat Susan Collins, 1,000%. Stephen King is an absolutely great choice. Good on the issues, good on the morals, hates Donald Trump. Baby, who got Stephen King number? Stephen King, let's go. This is you know what I love, Jason, about the Joy Reid Show fam? They be some smart cookies, man.
Hey,
y'all be coming up with some good stuff. Who else is from Maine that y'all know? Who else is from Maine? But Stephen King's probably the most famous person from Maine that I know. I don't know anybody else that's famous from Maine. Do y'all? Famous Mainers. Famous people from Maine. Is Ken Griffey Jr. from Maine? No. Famous people from Maine. Sorry, I put Mainers and they put Mariners and thing. Famous people from Maine. Stephen King, actress Anna Kendrick, Judd Nelson, Patrick Dempsey, and famed poet. Lockwell's dead, y'all. Please give me living people. The most famous person from Maine is Stephen King. We got to go with King. Somebody is saying Heather Cox Richardson. Is Heather Cox Richardson from Maine? I don't know about that. I just know that I'm going with Stephen King in this moment. Look at the chat. Look at the chat. His son Joe Hill is a writer too. Anna Kendrick, girl crush. Anna Kendrick. Jason, you heard of Anna Kendrick? Actress.
Can't say I have. Probably seen her, you know.
Actress. She is a actress and singer and director known for her comedic timing and versatility. She's been in the Twilight series, the Pitch Perfect movies, and she is from Portland, Maine. She's 40 years old. All right, y'all. Anna Kendrick is our other option. Anna Kendrick made Obama laugh hysterically.
Let's get our people to start sending some letters and recruiting these people.
Look, let me tell y'all. In literally 5 minutes on this show, just going from the chat alone, we did a better job picking candidates than the Democratic Party of Maine or the National Democratic Party did in a year. What's wrong with this party? We just literally workshopped 2 better candidates than any of the people that ran. Anna Kendrick she's got some heat on her in the chat. Heather Cox Richardson, I think someone need to get in touch with her. We're going to reach out to her. And I think it's time to activate the Team TJRS option. We are going to reach out. We're going to try to get in touch with both Heather Cox Richardson and with Stephen King. And one of the 2 of them got 7 days to get in this damn race. And we don't want to hear Chuck Schumer's vote. We don't want to hear Apex vote. We don't care about either of them. We don't want to hear either of them. And now let's go to Michigan. Listen, y'all, Abdul El-Sayed is your candidate. Forget the other lady. Get behind Abdul El-Sayed. He's a good candidate, strong candidate. He's a medical doctor. He cares about people in the state of Michigan having good health care. That's your candidate. I think we need to put together a slate, Jason. I think we need a TJRS slate. Let me know what y'all think. I think we need a slate. We need to post it of the candidates we like all throughout the country because not Adam Sandler. He's a right winger, guys. No. Not Adam Sandler is a right winger. So no. All right. We're going to go. Before we go, I'm going to let you guys know that we are going to follow up on Wednesday on this awful story of Nolan Wells, this teen Nolan Wells, young Black kid, Nolan Xavier Wells, who has been found dead. His body was found. This is an 18-year-old boy. Just a child, a teenager who went missing on the 4th of July. He was the only Black kid hanging out with a group of friends. And he went missing. His body was found at around 8:45 a.m. by a park ranger, matched Wells's description. His mother has put out a statement thanking the community, their friends, the Cajun Navy, and local law enforcement and everyone for their love and support and resources. My heart is broken, she says, for my sweet son who was always willing to cheer up and uplift others. She said Nolan was a special soul. God took his time creating our son. Ooh, and ask that you give me and my family time to grieve. This is one of the hardest. This is horrible. Horrible. I'm so sorry. Deepest condolences to this family. Their beautiful son is gone. We will follow up on that. That is very sad. I think we desperately need a moment of joy. Winsome picked this one. So introducing the Fishing Village Cats. They are so cute. I feel like I'm probably just giving Jackie Reid ideas, though. You're not allowed to have any fishing village cats, Miss Jackie Reid. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you guys on Read This, Read That tomorrow at 3 p.m. And on Wednesday night, same here, same bat time, same bat channel right here on the Joy Reid Show. Wishing you all well and workshop some more ideas for Maine. Peace.
Let's get those ideas together. Yeah,
keep those ideas together. See you on Wednesday. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.
Getting back to the basics, grassroots level. Let me dig a little deeper with the shovel. Plenty can't tell the forest from the trees, and I'm hard to detect, like a black hole in the dark. Injustice anywhere, it's a threat to justice everywhere. Let me make this clear, I got a bone to pick, and I'll never fear the threat of poverty. They don't want to talk about it, they rather party, so I'm a real talk about it, for sure.